There's something about repeating things on a daily basis that I believe end up getting into your subconscious. And one of the main reasons I wanted to join the cast when they moved to Broadway was Hamilton is such a rich, deep, intelligent piece of theater. And it was something that I wanted to hear and digest every day. And I wanted it to sort of crawl under my skin. And it did, and it has. And it's affected me in a million ways. I mean, Lin's writing is just so, every day I would hear something new and learn something new. It's so dense. Even people that would come to see it would say, I feel like it's so amazing and I only got 20% of it. I need to come see it again, you know, and it's just one of those pieces of theater that you can keep coming back to and get something different from every time.
Yeah. Well, I can't have you in the studio without talking about Hamilton, right?
Oh, right.
I mean, for the listeners who don't know, maybe you were living under a rock, I don't know. Jonathan played King George in the original Broadway cast that included Daveed Diggs, Leslie Odom Jr., Renee Elise Goldsberry, Philippa Sue, and of course Lin Manuel Miranda. How much of a part of your life is the show these days?
On a daily basis? It's so funny. That's the weird thing about theater is when you do a show, you go every day,
right?
And it's ritualistic and you see those people every day. I just officiated Steve Pasquale and Pippa Sue's wedding.
Oh, well, all right.
And that was like 3 weeks ago.
That's
and that
something.
that was the first time I'd seen.
That was Philippa Sue was
it was Eliza.
Eliza, yep.
I set them up and then I married them.
I did not. You did?
Yeah, totally.
I did not know that story.
Yep. And so that was actually the first time I hadn't seen Renee since like we texted and we actually talked on the phone at length.
Isn't she in a Netflix series?
Exactly, because she was actually considering taking that job. And I was like, girl, you got to get in with this Netflix thing. It's so amazing. But yeah, we talked. So I talked to them and we stayed connected, but it wasn't until their wedding that I'd seen all of them. It's like family. But so Hamilton, I did in the shower the other day put on the Schuyler Sisters.
Oh, all right.
While I was like getting ready and helpless. I think I listened to that as well, but not nearly as much of a daily situation as it used to be while I was in the show.
Yeah. I feel like for so many of those actors that we were talking about, Hamilton was such a life changer of an experience. Was the same true for you?
It was different for me because I did Spring Awakening on Broadway when I was 21, I think, when the show opened. And that for me was like every Broadway dream I had come true, changed the trajectory of my life and my career, and was like the jumping off point for everything for me in so many ways. And I think a lot of the cast of Hamilton experienced that with Hamilton. I joined Hamilton a week after they opened off Broadway, replacing Brian Darcy James.
Was it just a week? Wow.
Yeah, it's weird, right?
Yeah.
And so I did it downtown for 2 months and joined them on Broadway. So there was this, like, I felt like I was in it, but I also felt like a fan of it as well, because I got to see it before I was in it. And I was only on stage for 9 minutes, so I wasn't pouring my blood, sweat, and tears into the show every night. So it was a really unique, amazing, and specific experience for me. I spent more of my time watching the show, because I would go into the audience and watch it when I wasn't on stage, than I was actually in the show.
How elaborate was that costume to get on and off? Could you?
Well, the cape was really big, so I never wore the cape. Like the cape they would put on me right before I actually walked on stage, and the crown. And then the minute I stepped off stage, the cape came off. Yeah, exactly, because it was just so giant. But then I would sneak out into the box of the theater and sit behind audience members. They had no idea that King George was looming over their shoulder. I did that several times a week. The whole run of the show, because it was such a thrill to watch that show.
Were there certain parts that you liked that you made it a point not to miss in the show? Do you have
my favorite sequence was from, well, it was like, so like I would finish my first song, You'll Be Back, and then I would take my cape off, and then I would like grab a like yogurt or something, and then I would go into the audience and I would watch from, it's like the helpless, satisfied sequence to me is my favorite part of the show. I think it's incredible. Just the rewind, that whole thing. And then I would usually stay through Wait For It, which is also one of my favorite songs. But sometimes I would stay all the way up through Yorktown. But that was the section of the show that I never missed.
Right. And were there any parts that you wish you had played?
Angelica.
Yeah?
Yeah, that's my dream role.
All right.
Yeah.
That'll
I could
happen.
probably perform the rap, yeah. I keep joking with Tommy Kail, who is the amazing director of Hamilton. I'll send him text being like, all right, so the London cast, I'm free.
Needs an Angelica?
Yeah.
Is that?
I'm ready.
Well, but
I know that Hamilton pushes boundaries, so why not have
Exactly
a
right.
32-year-old white dude play Angelica? Is that interesting? I don't know.
would you go back in the show to play King George at some point? Have you thought about it? Would you?
It's such a unique experience to do it with the original cast that I don't know if Lin went back in for like a holiday season. We shared a dressing room together, essentially on Broadway, where he was in the big room and I was in the small room, and we shared a bathroom, and we called it the year that we shared a studio apartment in Midtown. And so if he went back in and we got to sort of live in our space together again, I would be down.
Right.
I love him.
Have you seen him lately? I feel like I see
When
you
is the
in
last
like
time
YouTube videos occasionally singing together.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, no,
you
I
know?
saw him. I actually got him. This is so insane. Should I be telling this? Yeah, it doesn't matter. I got him to write a rap for Steve and Pippa's wedding to be performed by Kelly O'Hara.
What? Stop it.
That we surprised them with. Yeah.
This is headline news.
Because I was officiating their wedding, and they were so sweet, and they didn't want to make a big deal about anything, and they wanted it to be fun and not too formal and whatever. And they were like, and all of our friends are performers, so we don't want to ask them to perform at the wedding because why make them perform? And I was like, okay. And then I was sitting with their wedding planner, and we were just talking about it. And I was like, I'm going to get Lin to write a rap. And I think Kelly O'Hara needs to do it. So that, the sort of so I had lunch with him the week before that. That's the last time I saw him.
How is Kelly's rapping?
Incredible.
Yeah?
Yep. I have an amazing video of her. I have an amazing video of her in the coat closet of the Wythe Hotel practicing her rap that is just one of the gems on my phone that I'll have forever.
Why haven't we seen this yet? Why hasn't she performed it live yet?
This is I know. Lin calls me the Snowden of Broadway because I have all these videos of people, but I am not on social media and I don't share anything, and I've got it all on lockdown.
Right. You are not.
Yeah.
Oh. Is there a secret origin to the nickname Groffsauce that everybody knows that I do not?
Lin coined it
during
in the Heights days, and I think I don't really know, but I think it came from. Remember when people used to say like cool beans and awesome sauce?
Mm-hmm. It was like that.
Remember awesome sauce?
Yeah,
that was like a thing that people said.
Yeah.
So I think he changed it to Groffsauce.
So back in the Heights, and you were doing Spring Awakening. Did that overlap?
Yeah.
Okay.
We met through Karen Olivo, who was doing In the Heights at the time. They were moving from off Broadway to Broadway, and I was doing Hair in Central Park with Karen Olivo.
Oh, right, with Karen. Right.
And she was like, "You have to come. You have to meet my friend Lin. He's gonna come to the Delacorte, and he's doing a video where he's singing Zac Efron's song from High School Musical 2.
Oh, I remember this. I remember this. Yeah.
And I know that you've never met Lin, but I promise he's really great and he's really smart. And In the Heights is a great show. And he's making this Bet on It video as a commercial for In the Heights on Broadway, and he wants you to be in it." And that was such an appropriate first meeting of Lin. It really that's like never forget your first impression. Yep. That sort of is Lin in so many ways to me, getting to meet him and be like, wow, this guy's so amazing. And we're making this video, and he's dressed like Zac Efron, and he's like running through Central Park. And it was a very appropriate first meeting.
I think now we have to end this episode here to give everyone the opportunity to go, onto YouTube and find that, right? Because it's still there. So,
hi, my name is Lin Miranda. I know you don't know who I am, but I wore these pants and I'm willing to dance like an idiot if you just give me the chance. Yeah. That was part of his rap.
All right. That was well done.
But that was also an old rap because it says, "Hi, my name is Lin Miranda. I know you don't know who I am."
Yeah, no,
that's true. Those days are so over.
Do you work on that in preparation for Angelica? Is that the...
No, I just work on the Angelica material.
No, that makes sense. Yeah.
So you were in the cast of Hamilton on Broadway when you got the part for Mindhunter. Let's talk a little bit about Hamilton. So you played King George, a.k.a. the
Yes.
white guy in the cast.
Exactly. Exactly.
And you're the king, and the whole Revolutionary War is about cutting ties with you. So you're like the bad guy, but you're also like the comic relief in the show. So how come your character is funny as opposed to more of a threat?
It's this idea that Lin had that King George would sing the equivalent of kind of a breakup song. You know, it's called You'll Be Back. And so the moment when we see King George is the first kind of comedy moment in the show, and there hasn't been one up to that point. And it's interesting because I think the audience watching the show is digesting a lot. They're digesting a lot of words because of the rapping, and they're also seeing these historical figures visually in a way that they've never experienced them before. We're used to seeing pictures of them as old white men, and here they are, young, vibrant, and the opposite of white. And so when King George comes out about 20 minutes into the first act, and then he comes out and you just immediately know what his perspective is because we all know the history. And then he sings this sort of Beatles-esque song. So it's this melody that's uncomplicated and familiar. And then on top of all of it, Lin throws in this, this idea of, you know what? I know you've left me, but you'll be back. And it's that sort of passive-aggressive British thing where he's talking about killing your friends and family, but sort of ending it with da 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 da. You know, it's this like sweet kind of jaunty melody. So I think all of that put together provides the humor of that moment.
You should describe what you wore on stage for that song.
Right. Okay. So it was exactly what you see in pictures of King George. So it was the white wig, the white powdered wig, a giant crown, a huge cape covering the like king outfit. I also had a scepter that I hid underneath my cape that I revealed at a particular moment during the song. So it's a very opulent, giant costume, a sensible, 1.5-inch heel. Paul Tazwell is the costume designer. Incredible. It's one of those parts that like just works. I joined the company actually off Broadway. Brian Darcy James originated the role, and a week after the show opened, he had to leave to do another show. So I ended up doing the show downtown for 2 months, replacing him. And I had no real rehearsal. I rehearsed for about a day and then went into the show. And so when I went into the show, I had no British accent. I had no idea what I was doing. But the material is so great that it got, it was such a lesson because Lin jokes with me. He was like, it was the first week in the show was like, it was like I was doing the high school play. I just had no sense of character. I just came out in the costume and sang the song and walked off stage. And through the course of the first month, it was kind of like a rehearsal process in front of the audience, which was really awesome and really interesting. But it was a testament to the material that even without any sort of sense of what I was doing in those initial weeks, that you could come out there and the song just kills.
I think maybe in part because of the costume, King George comes off a little bit like Queen George.
It's funny you say that because I feel like that maybe is a little bit of my added element to the character.
Okay, yeah, so tell me about that. Tell me about that.
Yeah, because it's interesting because when I originally saw the show, I saw Brian Darcy James and I was pulling my hair out a little bit because he came out kind of like Napoleon. He's got these hilarious giant eyebrows. The crown like sits on top of his eyebrows, and he's got these legs that just are innately funny when he walks out, and just the expression on his face, and he just was hilarious in this broad kind of genius vaudevillian way. And I thought to myself, that I can't do that. I don't know. I wonder why they hired me. He's a totally different physical type than me. He's older than me. We're just completely different beings. And when I jumped into the show, the sort of revelation that I had was I was watching these clips of Barbra Streisand on YouTube. These old clips from her television special from like the very early 60s, when she was like 22 years old or something. And this one clip in particular of her singing this song, When the Sun Comes Out. And the newscaster goes, "Ladies and gentlemen, once again, Barbra Streisand." And she walks out, and it's one shot. There's no cutaways. And she comes all the way down center, and she sings the song. And it's like she's having sex with herself with her own voice is what it feels like to me while I'm watching this. It's just, she has extreme power and control, and there's this sensuality that she has while she's singing. And I thought, you know what? I'm gonna myself with my own voice as King George, and that is the energy that I'm gonna bring to my performance. And so perhaps the kind of like the vibe that you were getting when you say it's more of a Queen George than a King George is me trying to channel my inner Barbra Streisand.
That's really funny. So you mentioned that the song that you sing is a kind of British invasion, but I have to say the melody reminds me of the Monkees song, Daydream Believer. Do you know that song?
Yeah. Daydream Believer. Yeah, of course.
But it's the first part that really reminds me of it.
Oh, wait. Sing the first part for me. How does it go?
Very much like the melody. I would sing it, but I would just be mocked. And I don't remember the words, but it's the same melody.
Wait, you have to...
Wait, I'm going to look it up. Hang on. Okay. I could hide 'neath the wings of the bluebird as she sings. I'm so off key.
Okay, first of all, Terry, you have great pitch.
No, I have terrible pitch, but that's similar, isn't it?
And it's like, you'll be back soon. You'll see. You'll remember. Yes, it's very similar. I sort of had forgotten about the opening of that song, but you're exactly right.
And the Monkees.
It is very similar.
And the Monkees are kind of like the fake British invasion.
Yeah, totally. It's like a ripoff of a ripoff.
Yeah. It's funny. So what was it like to be the white guy in the cast of Hamilton?
Incredible. It was great. It's so funny you say that, because at one point they gave us somebody, I think it was one of the dancers, I think it was Betsy, who funnily was the other white person in Hamilton in the ensemble. But she gave us all the Ta-Nehisi Coates book, Between the World and Me. And I did a lot of reading backstage because I was only on stage for 9 minutes. And I read that book, and I was like, oh my God, I really am representing like white supremacy in so many ways in this show, being the king, and then also, funnily enough, only working for 9 minutes while everybody else is like busting their ass on stage. So it was weirdly symbolic in many ways.
So I find it really interesting that, adults and teenagers who love Hamilton and were obsessed with Hamilton, while that's going on, there's children who are obsessed with Frozen and listening to that over and over in the same way that other people are listening to Hamilton over and over, and you're on both of those. That must have been odd for you to have these two separate identities, one in a hip-hop musical and the other in an animated kids musical, also knowing that people were obsessed with both of them and listening to them over and over.
It's so cool. Experience.
And then another musical comes along, Hamilton. How did you get into that show? And was it immediately clear that even if you didn't want to continue with Hair on Broadway, this absolutely had to be a part of your life?
Lin texted me and said, hey, Brian Darcy James has to leave the show right after we open off Broadway. Do you want to come in for the run of Hamilton off Broadway, basically, for 2 months? And I said, sure, without having read it, seen it, or anything. And I went to go see it at the Public Theater on a Friday night. And I thought, oh my God, I've won the lottery. I can't believe I get to be a part of the show and play the part of King George.
You say the price of my love is not a price that you're willing to pay. You cry in your tea, which you hurl in the sea when you see me go by. Why so sad?
I had one day of rehearsal and then went into the show, and then ended up doing it on Broadway with them, and so ended up working on the show for about a year. And because King George is only on stage for 9 minutes, I would go into the audience and watch the show when I was not on stage.
In costume, or
in costume, yeah.
Would people see you?
No, I would hide behind them.
What was that like?
It was the opportunity of a lifetime. I mean, to quote the show, I just kind of wanted to be in the room where it was happening.
Time will tell. You remember that I served you well. Oceans rise, empires fall. We have seen each other through it all. And when push comes to shove, I will send a fully armed battalion to remind you of my love. Da 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 da. Da 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 ya da. Da 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 ya da. Da 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 da. Da 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 ya da. Da 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 da. You say our love is draining and you can't go on. You'll be the one complaining when I am gone. And no, don't change the subject, 'cause you're my favorite subject. My sweet, submissive subject. My loyal, royal subject. Forever and ever.